welcome. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Your video is about to start. I just wanted to invite you to take a moment with me to remember our deployed military members who cannot be home like most of us can be. It is a cause that is near and dear to my husband's heart and therefore my own as well. And if you feel like it, take a moment with us. Enjoy your video. Bye-bye. Happy Friday, TGIF, and welcome to Friday Fraud Law Review. Guys, I cannot make this stuff up. I've been taking these OIG fraud reports, this particular series of them recently, literally in complete chronological order from most recent back by how the OIG reports them. And there's been pretty much one every day, maybe some twice. But anyway, I was just doing a video on of a May 29th issue. And here is another one. And again, I'm going to point out that it's funny how they decide to title these things to be politically correct instead of being clear and honest, in my opinion. And I know the goal is not to be inflammatory. However, it's very relevant to today's world. So let me get into it. Here, the title of this report is Brazilian National Sentenced to over 1 year in prison for perjury. Perjury, not good. Love Brazil, certain things about it. I've known a few Brazilians. Wonderful. Not so much. So let's get into it. So the perjury. Now, yeah, you're not supposed to perjure yourself. But that is like the most minimal of what the problem is. So let me tell you what this is about. Apparently, and this is in Massachusetts, yet another sanctuary. And by the way, I recently reported on a Honduran in New Orleans. And at the end of that, I said he should have just gone to a sanctuary city to been safe. New Orleans is a sanctuary city, so I misspoke. So correction, but you get what you ask for, sanctuary. You want them, you got them. Okay, so here we go. This Brazilian national, they say, was residing in Massachusetts, and he was sentenced, so he's guilty, so he no longer gets the presumption of innocence that I would give him, probably. I would give it to everybody else, particularly lawful people. But anyway, okay. He was sentenced already. So apparently, this is in federal court in Boston. My guess is that's a sanctuary. I'm guessing now, guys. I'm not going to say. For lying on his asylum application. Oh, imagine that. He lied on his asylum application. And again, at an immigration hearing. I guess they let him in because, you just take people's word for things. On applying for a U.S. visa, the defendant never disclosed his arrest in a different case. And maybe you're like, okay, well, it's an arrest. It wasn't a conviction, I guess. I don't know. However, that case involved the murders of 11 people, mostly teenagers. His arrest in Brazil in retaliation for the death of a police officer in an incident known as the slaughter of Curio. So apparently when you fill out an asylum application, I've never done it. Don't practice that area of law, although I almost did. Isn't that ironic? I opted not to, but it was on my plate there. Only because it was federal. I wanted to do federal. It is ironic because, well, does the asylum application, it must ask about arrests and not just convictions. Because think about it, you could be arrested and waiting a trial and you skip town. Then you could say, I wasn't convicted, I was just arrested. Rightfully so, I think arrest should count for a definite look at. Anyway, so I'm going to say this dude's name, Antonio Jose de Abreu Vidal. I'm sure I butchered it. I try. 31 years old, another young guy. He was sentenced by U.S. District Court Denise J. Casper to 16 months in prison. He is subject to deportation upon completion of the imposed sentence. He pled guilty to 2 counts of perjury, which really is all he did here, on what appears to be that. But I would kind of think that if you lied in your asylum application and that's how you were allowed to stay, shouldn't that make you retrospectively an illegal alien from the moment you came in and lied? Because the order allowing you to stay was based on false pretenses. So I would consider him for sure an illegal alien. I mean, lying doesn't get you to escape that, right? Okay, so it was May of 2024 that he pled guilty. I'm sorry. In February 2025, he pled guilty after being indicted in May of 2024. These things take a while, obviously. Apparently, this fellow, De Abreu, they're calling him, De Abreu. They just picked out two of those names of the thing I butchered, and they're referring to that as his name. Joined the, looks like Ceará, CEARA State Military Police, Brazilian state forces, who, under the governor, do first line policing on the street. In the early morning hours of November 12, 2015, numerous Brazilian military police officers employed by the government of the Brazilian state of Ceará, including De Abreu, participated in a mass killing event of primarily young people from the impoverished neighborhoods of Barroso, Messejana, Guajeru, Curio, and Lagoa Redondo in the capital of Ceará. That's really sad. The killings were in retaliation for the death of another police officer who was attempting to defend his wife who was being assaulted. That's terrible, but I don't know that this retaliation is obviously not appropriate by the quote unquote military police. In total, 11 people, mostly teenagers, were murdered and many others seriously injured and tortured by the military police in Brazil. I guess Brazil is such a nice place. This incident has come to be known as a Chacina do Curio, or the slaughter of Curio, or the Curio massacre. A total of 45 individuals, including De Abreu, were charged by the Brazilian authorities. On August 31st, 2016, De Abreu was arrested and detained by the Brazilian police. He was subsequently released pending trial on May 24th, 2017. Okay, so they did charge him and he was pending trial, but they were stupid and released him. 2 weeks later, on June 9th, 2017, while in Recife, Brazil, De Abreu applied for United States non-immigrant B2 visitor visa. When asked whether he had ever been arrested or convicted, see, he did this right away. He was obviously fleeing his country, so he wasn't going to be held for trial. When asked whether he had been arrested or convicted for any offense or crime, De Abreu responded, no. Thereafter, on about June 21st, 2017, the United States Department of State approved his visa application and issued him the B2 visa upon his false representations. He used the B2 visa and traveled to Miami in May of 2018. Between May of 2018 through August 14th, 2023, as a result of the approval of his visa application, Abreu obtained various state driver's licenses, a social security card, travel documents, and authorizations for employment. Various state driver's licenses. Does that mean you moved to different states and you do have to get a new one in each state, or if you're changing residence? Don't know. De Abreu applied for asylum in 2020, beginning of 2020, and lied. So the first lying was when he was lying about getting his visa. I want to be a visitor and I've never been arrested. Meanwhile, he's up on charges for murdering 11 kids. And lied when asked whether he had ever been accused, charged, arrested, detained, interrogated, and imprisoned in any country other than the United States. He also failed to disclose. He lied when he lied about the answer. He also failed to disclose his arrest and detention in Brazil when he applied for adjustment of status with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service. On June 25th of 2023, he was convicted. He's murder. He was convicted of 11 counts of murder, 3 counts of attempted murder, and 4 counts of physical and mental torture in the first court of Fortaleza, Ceará. That same day, Abreu was sentenced to 275 years and 11 months in prison and an arrest warrant issued for those murders that he, I guess, was partaking in retaliation for the inappropriate death of a police officer. Yeah, that's bad what he did. But the heading is a little funny. Well, let me just finish this. On February 9th, he testified of 2024. He testified under oath at an immigration hearing conducted by U.S. Immigration Court, falsely again claiming that he had never lied to immigration officials and that the only reason he had left off important information on immigration documents filed with the United States government was because he had not yet been arrested. That was a lie. Yeah, I guess the involvement here with the SSA is the fact that he obtained a social security card and permission to work. That's pretty crazy. So what was that they were saying, that nobody that comes over here illegally is dangerous? No murderers. This guy's not a murderer. He's a serial killer if you look at it. Although it wasn't separate events, but still 11 people, 11 children. or young people, I should say. I don't know if they're all minors, even though they're apparently mostly teenagers, but that's really sick. I'm very not familiar with the whole thing that went down, so in 2015, but just what I'm reading here. And the title of the story by the OIG is Brazilian national. That's it. They don't say illegal alien. He's sentenced to 1 year in prison for perjury. That's all he is. He's just a Brazilian national. I mean, how does that make other Brazilian nationals that are completely fine people look? Why are they getting grouped that way? Sometimes you have to use those adjectives, or else you're really doing a disservice to everybody else. My opinion. Okay, guys, happy Friday. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week. Bye. Hello again. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful, if not just a little bit informative. In the event you have a Social Security question you want addressed, please feel free to make a comment below and ask the question, even if nothing to do with this particular video. And just a quick, again, reminder, we have our daily video shares and tips around noon every day of the week. And on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have our live Q&A session where you can come in live and enter your questions in the chat. And we all pretty much have a good time for an hour or two. I look forward to seeing you there, hopefully. And lastly, don't forget about our benefactor memberships. They're very reasonably priced. The first one is very nominal, and you get a few perks, but on a bigger scale, it contributes to us being able to fulfill a mission of assisting certain people with representation that would otherwise not be able to get it. We look forward to continuing to do that, and so far it's working out like the bomb. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Bye-bye now.